Welcome back to JB Squared. I'm JB Hager, joined by Johan Bernil to take a look at stage 5 of this year's Tour de France, which it feels like we're 2 weeks deep into a tour, and this is only stage 5. But if you haven't watched today's stage yet and you want to watch it and listen to this later, I don't know, because it was a shakeup today. It was an incredible stage, and we'll get into all the details of that and Johan's take of it, not just on the individual players, but the team tactics, which is I always find very, very interesting. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, I want to tell you about a couple offers from our partners. Today's show is brought to you by Ventum Bikes. Of course, you've heard about the new GS1, the gravel bike. They just revamped it. I actually just got one of those a few months ago. Been having a blast with it. It is so much fun. It's a different ride. It's just a cool thing. You can go different places and do different things you just couldn't do on your NS1. What's really incredible and miraculous to me is that you can get into this GS1 for just $29.99, just under $3,000, starting with the SRAM Apex AXS. You're on the road for $3,000 on the exact same frame, it might be a $15,000 version of the bike. It's really, really cool. And their website is just so great at helping you do the build out. There's a lot of helpful things to help you pick the right geometry, the right size. Like I'm on a medium. I was somewhere between a medium and a medium large. And then when you start plugging in all your info from an old bike fit or whatever info you have, you go, oh, okay, I'm a medium large. I need this length of stem. I like this length of crank. I want this wheel upgrade or not, this set of components. And it's really fun to play with it. Just do the whole build out on your bike on their site. And you can get 10% off your bike when you use this code, WEDU. Use the code WEDU at checkout at ventumracing.com/themove. And keep paying attention during this tour. We're doing the trivia every day. Every time you submit a right answer via email, they draw a winner from that each day. And those names go into the final drawing for a brand new NS1. Again, 10% off when you use the code WEDU at checkout, ventumracing.com/themove. Today's show is also brought to you by HVMN. They're the creators of Ketone IQ. I know we've talked, we've been talking about Ketones IQ for a few years now, and we always seem to talk about the physical benefits, having another fuel source when you're out riding, racing, doing whatever you do. What I became particularly interested in with Ketones IQ is the mental effect. And so I've been taking a daily shot for 2 to 3 months now. And they actually have the science to show you that the clean fuel can cross the blood-brain barrier. It gives your brain sustained energy, mental focus, and sharpness. And I can attest to that. I definitely have felt more alert, more total confession. Haven't been on any ADD medication for 3 or 4 months now. So, and doing all right, getting by. And I do have Ketone IQ to credit for a lot of that support I obviously needed. They're now available in Sprouts if you want to pick it up locally. And if you have a Sprouts somewhere in the US, you can just grab them there. Or you can do a subscription online to have them sent regularly, which I would recommend. Try it for 2-3 months for sure. And you can save 30% on your first subscription order to Ketone IQ at hvmn.com/themove. Again, visit hvmn.com/themove and subscribe upon checkout for 30% off. Okay, Johan, I'm dying to hear your take on everything that went down today. It was very exciting. Let's start with talking about today's stage overall, and then we'll jump right into the details of Jai Hindley.
Mm-hmm. Well, the expectation was that there was going to be an attempt for a breakaway. The first part of the stage was quite easy. So that's always a tricky part of a mountain stage. When the beginning is easy, you don't necessarily need to be a strong climber to be in the breakaway. So it's very difficult to control for a team that needs to control the race or wants to control the race. So surprisingly, we saw a very, very big group, 32 riders going away. So if there's only one team controlling and there's no help, that's a big group. That's a really big group. Now, I understand what happened probably in their minds at the beginning. They said, okay, it's a big group, but it's going to split anyway. So, at the end, we're only going to have to control 4 or 5 guys. That's true. That could work. But, in this case, having a guy like Jay Hindley in that breakaway, that was definitely a mistake of UAE in the beginning, and I would say during the whole stage, actually, because they were the only ones who took control of the race. They did have the yellow jersey, but there's obviously other guys who want to win the Tour. So I was a bit surprised that they were just so generous in just going to the front, and it's also true that they controlled this group with only 2 riders, the two guys that are used to they took to the Tour for the flats, the 2 Scandinavians, Mikkel Bjerg and Langen, but still, they had one guy in the front, Marc Soler. They had to call him back, and I was expecting to see some kind of gamble. I don't know if probably not. So probably they haven't talked to Jumbo-Visma, because Jumbo-Visma had 3 riders in the breakaway. They had Van Aert and Benoot and Laporte. But obviously, none of those 3 is going to win the Tour de France for Jumbo-Visma. So yeah, I was surprised to see such a big group, and especially I was surprised to see that they just went to the front and just assumed the responsibility of the stage, didn't look back, and just did what they thought was the best to do. I think there's other ways around this, and sometimes you have to be able to gamble, or willing to gamble, or playing a little bit of poker, or putting your poker face on, because 32 riders is a big group to control with one team and with 2 guys. There's no way you can keep that under control. So I would have thought, okay, let's, we ride, we see there's nobody else coming to help us. So at some point we say, okay, you know what, we'll just let it go. We're not going to chase by ourselves. I can guarantee you, if they would have given that break 2 or 3 more minutes, that Jumbo-Visma would have come with 2 riders to help, because they want to win the Tour. I mean, today, even if they have 3 guys in the front, if this break takes 2 or 3 more minutes, they could have lost the Tour. Let's not underestimate Jay Hindley, and there's other riders. There's Giulio Ciccone, who has been top 5 already in the Giro, and there's other strong riders. There was other strong riders there, and so I think personally that UAE made a big mistake. I think they made a big mistake by just assuming that they were in charge by themselves, and that they were not able to create some kind of situation where they forced the other team, who's their big rival, to come in and help, even if they didn't want to at the beginning. But there was no way that Jumbo-Visma would have let this group have gone 2 or 3 more minutes with a guy like Jay Hindley in there. So they would have put Nathan van Hooijdonk and probably another guy, maybe Van Baarle, together with the other 2 guys, and they would have kept it under control. So, at the end of the stage, it wouldn't have changed that much, because it basically came down to a battle between Jonas Vingegaard and Pogacar, and Vingegaard had the upper hand. But in terms of team strategy, I think it was they made a mistake. They just, I don't know if it's just too much confidence. Most likely, Jumbo-Visma is, they know how strong Vingegaard is. They have the numbers, and they know damn well that it's almost impossible to go any faster than that. And so I think if I would be UAE, I would not so easily assume that Pogacar, of course, he is a great rider, but let's not forget, he had a far from ideal lead up to the Tour. And so it's only logical that he's a bit behind. And whenever Jumbo-Visma and Jonas Vingegaard sees the opportunity, they're going to try to hit him early in the stage, early in the Tour. which happened.
Yeah,
today.
let me remind people that if you didn't, I think it was when we were wrapping up our Dauphiné coverage. You said this. You said a real scenario that we could see play out in the Tour is for Vingegaard to hit Pogacar early on because he hasn't had as much racing, so he needs to hit him in the first week, and that's what we saw today. Stage 5, he hit him hard. And so maybe what you had predicted is what's going on here. But you also said he needs to hit him in the first week because Pogacar will strengthen as the Tour continues. Do you still think that?
That's a possibility. I mean, I think, listen, Pogacar's far from out, right? I mean, he's a warrior. He's a top class rider. He won the Tour twice. I personally think, and I already thought this in the Dauphiné, when I saw how good Vingegaard was and how fast he was going up the climbs, I said, this is not the Jonas Vingegaard from last year. He's way better than last year, way better. Plus, he has more confidence. Plus, his team has full confidence in him. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be a really hard guy to beat.
Yeah, and in fact, I think you've got some information on his numbers climbing today. That's just proof of the level that he's at compared to everybody else.
Yeah, the Marie Blanc is the last climb. It's a climb that is well known. Everybody knows that climb. There's obviously there was a KOM. The KOM was, we talked about it yesterday, from 2020. Was Pogacar and Roglic, I think, together. They crossed the finish. They crossed the top in stage 9. So since then, I don't think the Tour has gone back there. So probably other races, but no one would have been at the level of the big champions. So Pogacar had the KOM, right, on this climb. He was in a shape back then that was good enough to win the Tour against Roglic. Now today, Jonas Vingegaard on that 7-kilometer climb went 1.5 minutes faster. So 21 minutes. And so he went 1.5 minutes faster. That's massive.
Wow.
And on the last 3.5 kilometers, which is the steepest part, he went 1 minute 8 seconds faster than Pogacar 3 years ago. I mean, if to give an idea, he did around 21 minutes over the whole climb, and he produced 6.92 watts per kilo over 21 minutes. That's just, I mean, nobody can go faster.
Wow.
Nobody can go faster. And so Vingegaard is definitely, ready. He's on a different level. Doesn't mean he's going to have this kind of condition every day, right? But
and you've got to stay safe.
You have to stay safe. You can't make any mistakes. I think it's especially going to be now. He did lose a minute, so with the bonifications deducted, I think, what is it, 47 seconds now, 48 seconds. But more than that, I think it's the mental blow. Pogacar, can say, I'm fine, I'm going to fight back. Of course he will. But the mental disappointment and then the mental boost that Vingegaard got and Jumbo-Visma got must be incredible, So we'll see. We'll see what happens from now on. Plus, add to that now they have Jay Hindley in the yellow jersey. They have a pretty good team to defend the jersey. So Jumbo-Visma is in a great position, and still they do not have to take the weight of the race on their shoulders. So it was a pretty good day for Jumbo-Visma today, and not a good day at all for UAE.
And so I'm guessing Bora is going to bury themselves to hold on to this as long as they can.
Well, I think Jay Hindley came into the Tour as a real contender. I mean, isn't a winner of the Giro, podium in the Giro also, and a bunch of other races. Was in good shape in Dauphiné. He definitely came into this Tour de France with podium ambition. So they're not going to do just anything. But he could hold on to that. I mean, he could hold on to that jersey for a while, or at least he's going to stay up there. From now on, Jay Hindley is going to be first, second, or third in GC. He's not going to go any lower than that, I think.
One of the things that came up on the move earlier today is when we saw Jumbo go to the front, what did they see? What did they know? Maybe they got word from Jonas. He's feeling really good and wants to attack. But one of the things I pointed out on the move, it's like Johan sees things in the body language. Did you see anything in Pogacar prior to making that move that made you think he was a little off?
I mean, not really. And probably Vingegaard either didn't see. He probably didn't see anything either. But
he doesn't show a lot. Neither of them show a lot on the bike.
No, they always look quite easy and comfortable on the bike. I think personally that there's two things. They already know from stage one. There was this steep 2-kilometer climb at the end, where Adam Yates started to make the tempo, and then Vingegaard took over. No, sorry, Pogacar took over. Tried to drop Vingegaard. Never was the case. But if that's the effort of Pogacar on stage one, if that's his effort to attack, then they also know Adam Yates, who had been pulling, was dropped, but not much, and he was back straight away. So if that's the level that Pogacar produces, they know that it's not good enough to beat Vingegaard, because Vingegaard was playing with Adam Yates 2 weeks earlier in the Dauphiné. He was doing whatever he wanted. He dropped him whenever he wanted. He just never was Adam Yates even close to staying with Jonas Vingegaard or not with him, or not even within 20, 30 seconds. So that's number one. And then I think secondly, today they just know what kind of output he can produce. And that, if you're able to, I mean, today we see it in the times, right? We all see 6.9 watts per kilo over 20 minutes. But they've done this already in the past. They know this before the tour. So, and they know that if you're able to do that, there's nobody who can drop you. On the contrary, if somebody has a little bit of a problem, it's going to get dropped. So I think they just started this initiative going out from their own strength. And once again, Sepp Kuss, this guy is just there, and whenever he has to be there, let's not forget this guy did the Giro. He actually, it's thanks to Sepp Kuss that Jumbo-Visma and Roglic wins the Giro. There's not that much time in between to recover. So
I love watching him lead up the mountain. Sepp Kuss almost looks like he's looking at the scenery. He's looking at birds and trees.
Well,
he's amazing. I know
it does give that impression. That's true.
Yeah, what a talent! And then to mentally stick on Pogacar's wheel on the descent. His work was done. He didn't have to descend like that. Tell me what that does psychologically to be followed like that.
It was not just on the descent, JB. So as soon as Jonas went, I think it was about 2 kilometers to go. He went, Pogacar was in trouble. Sepp Kuss got dropped a little bit, but a tiny bit, maybe 5 to 10 meters from Pogacar. He came back straight away and just stayed there. So there, as being Pogacar, that, I mean, here you see it in the back, you see Vingegaard attacking Pogacar, and then you see Sepp Kuss there looking at Pogacar. There, so you have to know, if I can't drop his lead out guy in the mountains, then I'm screwed. There's no way I can get back.
Yeah, and what does that say about Sepp Kuss's recovery? He does this massive effort on the front, and most of the time those riders just peel off and just soft pedal home, like they're done.
Yeah, he could have, and maybe he should have, because they need him again tomorrow, But the mental blow today is a lot more important to accept for Pogacar than the time loss.
You watch a lot. Watch. I know you watch a lot more of the post-race interviews and in various languages. Did we see the usual happy-go-lucky Pogacar going around congratulating everyone?
Oh, No,
Yeah.
no, no. I listened to his interview. I said it was an interview in French. For French, but it was in English. And I mean, he seemed normal. He seemed
Yeah.
okay. Jonas was better today. I hope I can get back, and I hope I can improve. The tour is far from over. The typical,
Yeah.
declaration of a guy who basically lost today. And then he changed the subject straight away. He said, okay, but I was especially sad to learn because they're racing the Giro d'Italia for women now at the same moment. And his girlfriend was there and she crashed and she had a concussion. She had to abandon it.
Okay.
And he said, that's the sad part of my day. This minute I lose to Jonas is nothing compared to the worries I have for my girlfriend.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, listen, it's obviously she's going to be fine.
What a strange world. They're in their hotel rooms, probably after a massage or whatever. And it's like, hi, honey, how was your day?
Yeah.
It's really bizarre world they live in.
It is. Yeah. There's a few professions. I think Mikkel Bjerg, for example, the guy on UAE, is married to a very good professional bike rider who's on Movistar. Emma Norsgaard, she's a sprinter. So there's a few couples with like really good professional men and professional women cyclists.
Oh man. And some really ugly laundry rooms with bibs hanging everywhere.
Wow.
Okay. Johan, I want your thoughts on tomorrow. What individuals need to do.
I think we should talk a little bit about Jay Hindley.
Okay.
Because obviously, as soon as you saw he was in the breakaway, we knew that he would try to go for the stage win. I think the logical thing happened. He was the strongest. He dropped that Austrian guy Felix Gall from AG2R, who's a strong climber, by the way, also. But the way he performed on the Mari Blanc, and then the way he kept that difference in the last 16 kilometers was quite impressive. I mean, Vingegaard was giving it his all, and they didn't take that much time back in the last 15K. And here we have a guy who has prepared for the Tour. We haven't seen him that much this year. He hasn't won a single race since his victory in the Giro last year. And then started the season was everywhere, but just like between 5th and 10th he was, right? Mm-hmm. And he came to a better level at the Dauphiné, which is right. It's if you look at Vingegaard and Jay Hindley and you compare Pogacar and for sure, this crash and this wrist fracture is a really, it's far from ideal. It's not good to go to the Tour, but Pogacar has been firing on all cylinders from the beginning of the season, and he has beaten the best. Jay Hindley hasn't. And Vingegaard, he won his first race, true, when he started, but it was definitely not against the top competition. And in Paris-Nice, he was third. He was not able to follow Pogacar. He was on a good level, but not his top level. Even David Gaudu was better than Pogacar in Paris-Nice. And then he came, he won the Basque Country. Then he went away, went to training camp, recon for sure, a bunch of stages, and then went to Dauphiné, won that plus 2 or 3 stages, and then, went back to training camp, back to altitude. So he had the traditional build-up towards the Tour de France. So does Jay Hindley. They work towards their really first big peak in the Tour. And Pogacar has not done that. It's completely different. He was focusing on the classics, won the Tour of Flanders. Amazing. Somebody told me who interviewed him at the beginning of the season, he said, I really want to win the Tour of Flanders. It's more important for me than the Tour de France this year.
I remember that, yeah. We all shake our heads, right?
Well, let's listen. It's only day 5, right? And let's not forget, the guy had a surgery. He was not able to train for 20 days on the bike. So
one of our listeners pointed out in an email that they've seen him shaking his wrists, like having to get off the handlebars. And they had a similar injury and said that, how painful that can be. So he may be still or re-injuring it to a degree.
Imagine the vibrations all day long. It's like, those roads, and some of those roads are rough, in France. So he said there was, of the 3 bones that were broken, 2 are healed, and there's one that's still healing. So obviously, the vibrations, the millions of vibration you have during it one day, it must, there's no way he can be pain-free. He's obviously going to be good enough to have full power, but it's another aspect of your body that is uncomfortable. It takes away energy that you normally should use for going up the mountains.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
Going back to Jay Hindley's season, and it seems like he's just timed it to perfection, to peak for this. Not as active as Pogacar, as you said. It reminds me of something like, didn't back in the day, maybe you and Lance, but Lance take some criticism for their tour focus? Because that you guys always worked to have him. He wasn't out doing all these things in the early spring. Everything was focused on one peak for the whole season.
Normally he came to work. No, usually what happened was he always wanted to test him in Amstel Gold Race. So he wanted to be in front, wanted to try to win. He was not 100%, but he was a few times close. A few times he was second. But that was like his first own condition test. And then from there on, after Amstel Gold Race, we usually started our tour straight away. Sometimes even the night of Amstel Gold Race, we went to start the recon of the tour stages. He did win some other races. He won Dauphiné, he won Tour of Switzerland, he won Midi Libre back then. He won a few races before some of the tours. But it's clear that we did focus completely on the Tour de France. Everything was in function of the Tour. Nowadays, that's different. But Jay Hindley, he's a great rider. But somebody who hasn't paid really close attention to cycling will say, Jay Hindley, what's he doing in the yellow jersey? We haven't seen much of him, It's only the real cycling fans who know that he was top 10 in this race, top 10 in Tour of Catalonia, 4th in Dauphiné. The main public doesn't know that. So it may come as a surprise. To the people within cycling, it doesn't.
Anything else on Jay Hindley before we
talk about
tomorrow?
I'm seeing some pictures. It's not a guy who comes out of nowhere. He was already top of the world in the under 23 category. Won stages in the Giro d'Italia under 23. Won stages in Tour de l'Avenir under 23. So he was one of the top climbers already before he turned pro. And he's just evolving more slowly and more quietly than some, but he's a damn good bike rider, really good climber.
I've got to look up his age. 27 years old.
So he's not super young.
Yeah. But that's, historically, that's when a lot of riders come into their Grand Tour prime, right about that age, right?
How old is Vingegaard? He must be 26, 27, 26.
He's 26, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's very close on that category. Okay. Now tomorrow, it's the Tourmalet, and you obviously know that very well. What do you predict? What should we see? What's going to happen with UAE? What's going to happen with Jumbo? What's going to happen with Bora?
Well, obviously UAE, they're done. They're done pulling. They just have to regroup, think things through, and I don't know. I don't know what kind of decisions are made there or who makes the decisions. But normally you would say, okay, tomorrow is we just need to focus on getting ourselves back together. The focus of UAE and of Pogacar should be normally try to stick to Vingegaard and not lose time. That's the goal. Definitely not try to things turn around and attack to recuperate time. That's not for tomorrow. That's for later down the road. So that's what I expect.
It's very easy to want to react and send a message right back, you know?
Yeah, but
it's not wise.
There is no way that tomorrow Pogacar can drop Jonas Vingegaard unless he has a complete off day or he has a problem or he's sick but normally with what I've seen on Col de Marie Blanc, no. I would rather expect something the other way around. Tomorrow is a hard stage, Tourmalet. First they do the Col d'Aspin, I think. And then they do the Tourmalet. A beast of a climb, on the difficult side over La Mongie, which the beginning already is quite uphill, and then all of a sudden you have steep and 10% and more through the tunnels, and then once you get to La Mongie, you get that altitude, and it's even harder. Quite a difficult technical downhill, but then there's quite a bit of valley to the next climb. The last climb, it may not be a famous climb. Coteret is the first climb where we saw for the first time Miguel Indurain. He had not won the Tour yet. It was in 1989. Miguel Indurain won his first ever Tour de France stage there. Solo breakaway, and they still were even not thinking about Miguel Indurain as a potential Tour winner. Tall guy, quite big, strong, but he
was yet to be proven then, so they let him go, huh?
Well, yeah, but you still have to get over those climbs and make it to the finish, right?
Right.
And it's the last part of that climb is pretty steep. It's overall it's not that steep, but there's 3-4 kilometers at the end that are 9, 10, 11%. So again, ideal for another attack of Jonas Vingegaard. I'd rather expect something like that Vingegaard says, okay, you know what? He's in the ropes. Let's just
try to add another minute.
Yeah,
get that buffer.
Well, another time plus another mental blow. That's what I expect. Probably breakaway has a chance. It's a real mountain stage, and Bora will definitely just defend the jersey. They won't try to keep the break close for the stage win, and it just depends on Jumbo-Visma what they want to do. If Jumbo-Visma says, okay, you know what, we are the strongest team, Vingegaard is amazing, that's a potential scenario. We know he's going to drop everybody, plus he can get the bonus seconds at the finish. Then that's also a possibility. Tomorrow for sure, to be in the breakaway, it's different. You need to be a good climber. Yeah. And so it's only stage 6, and we are already in these big Pyrenees climbs. It sounds a bit strange. After tomorrow, there's still 15 stages to go. And
I know.
We're going to be already out of the Pyrenees. Wow. So it's going to be an interesting day.
I know you guys go deep on it, on outcomes, but can you give me, if it's a breakaway, a wild card climber who could win tomorrow? I know you guys go very deep on that on outcomes.
I haven't thought about it yet, but Thibaut Pinot could be
in his final season in France. Yeah, we're going to see him at some point go for a win. That's a good call.
Yeah, all right. He's not in top shape, but he's not bad. So
yeah. Okay, well, let's jump into our Ventum Tour trivia of the day. Just answer these questions via email, and you'll go in the drawing to win a brand new Ventum NS1, the complete bike. So yesterday's answer to the question was, where was George born? Where was George Hincapie born? The answer was Queens, New York. Queens, New York City. Today's question, and I'll give you the email after so you can enter into the drawing. I'm sure you saw the movie Dodgeball, right, Johan? Did you see that? Where Lance
definitely did.
Okay, it's still a great movie. What was Vince Vaughn drinking in Lance Armstrong's cameo in the movie Dodgeball? Remember that? I know that's it's all over YouTube if you want to go look it up. It's pretty easy to find.
Is he not checking into a hotel and the guy wants to quit or something? And
I think they were at an airport bar.
Oh, was it? Yeah, okay, yeah.
It was an airport bar. But it's funny to see how young Lance looks there, and his voice sounds really high pitched. He looks like a kid. And we figured out he was like 33 at the time. It was after the fifth.
He was. What was he? What was he saying to the guy?
Well, he wanted to quit. The guy didn't want to, and Lance was a fan of because the Dodgeball show, the game was so big on television.
So the question is, what was he drinking?
What was he drinking? It's a hilarious clip to watch again. It's really funny. It's very, very funny. So send your answer in to trivia@ventumracing.com and you'll be entered into that drawing. A couple of questions. All right. This comes from Daniel. Coming from a cycling family in South Africa, I always look out for South Africans and Africans in the peloton. Minkes, Girmay, Impey, Hunter, Froome. Yes, we claim him. He was schooled in South Africa. So curious to hear from Johan whether
mentions is South African, right?
Yeah.
How do they call? That's something I never understand. It's Louis Meintjes. And some people say Minkies or something like that.
I kind of said it that way, Minkes.
No, but they say it on TV also.
Yeah.
Minkies. I checked it with somebody from South Africa and said, no, that's Meintjes. Whatever.
Daniel goes on, curious to hear from Johan whether he knew any good South African cyclist of his era that could compete on the international level. Some Googling, and I see Johan even raced in South Africa a bit.
I did.
And then he says, P.S. Johan can probably understand some Afrikaans, so add another language to his list. That's from Daniel.
Ik versta Afrikaans.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Who did you race with? Who did you remember?
It's very similar to Flemish and Dutch. It's very similar. Afrikaans. Baie lekker. It's very good. Very, very nice. Well, I mean, one guy I remember I raced with was Willy Engelbrecht. I think he must be my age, maybe 1 year older, 2 years older. I do remember him because he won a lot of races. He was fast and he won a lot of races over there, but he also won races in Europe. And he actually raced on the same team as Greg LeMond when he won his not his last tour, his second tour, when he won the tour in 89 on ADR. Willy Engelbrecht was on that team. There was another guy called Alan Wolgeter, who was also a European professional. I remember him. And then, we had Robbie Hunter on the team, for example, for a year or 2 years, I think. But yeah, these guys from my era, those are the guys I remember.
And do you have any fond memories of racing there?
It was good. It was. I do have a very funny story, actually. I had raced there. There was a race at the end of the season always called the Boland Bank Tour. Boland Bank was just a brand of a bank. So they organized the race. It's not easy racing there. It's quite hilly. And I had gone there 1 year and we had kind of made a mixed team, like professionals from different teams that raced together, like 6 guys. We raced together on one team. And the year after, I went there with the Once team. I think it was 95. So we came off having an incredible season. We had, been second. That was the year I took I had the jersey in the tour. I finished third in the Vuelta after the tour. And so for the end of the season, we went with Once to that race. we said, yeah, of course we hadn't trained that much. We were not in great shape, but, still okay to race over there. So we thought, and there was one guy of the team who hadn't raced so much during the year, and he was really in good shape still at the end of the season, and said, okay, we're going to race for him and we're going to win this thing here. And man, there was a few guys there that they were so strong, and it all came down to the last stage, to the sprint. And we even, T-Mobile was there too, actually, T-Mobile, and they also were there. This was like a race, but then extended holidays, then we went on safari, and so T-Mobile was there also in the same mood, and so the last stage, this guy on our team, he needed to be top 3 and get the bonus to win, and we even made a deal. I mean, I can say it now. It's so long ago. Is the statute of limitation has passed.
These are the stories that people love. Go on.
we even made an agreement with Ponce and T-Mobile to race together the last stage, to have our guy be in the top 3. And he was not in the top 3, and a South African guy won. And actually, that guy who won, who was super strong, is now the manager. He was the manager of Team Quebeca, Team MTN, Team, what was it, NTT afterwards, Dimension Data, and now that new Swiss Italian team, Q36.5. Douglas Ryder won that stage race, and we were there with T-Mobile and Once, and we could not beat him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, one more question. This is more of a comment here, but again, it's about the languages. It says, hi, JB. Why doesn't Johan do a podcast in French? He does one in Spanish and English. Why not French? I've heard Johan speak French quite well, I might add. So I hope he starts doing one soon. That's Tim in Montreal.
Okay, Tim in Montreal. I mean, obviously you're from Quebec, so French-speaking Canadian. Now, it's if you would see how we have, I mean, JB, if you would see how we have to squeeze everything after the stages, for me to be finished by midnight every day, another podcast would definitely not fit. I mean, maybe in the future when or maybe one midweek or something, and one in the weekend during the Tour de France could be an option. I do think, however, that there's a lot of people who in France who understand English or Spanish. So, for the moment, I have to say that they should learn English if they want to listen to me. There's not enough time.
Yeah, no, there's not enough hours in the day, right? But if you were going to do a French show, who would be your co-host?
It's I actually have been talking to someone about this already. We have played with the idea. So I mean, he's an ex-cyclist, ex-professional cyclist. He's a commentator now on Eurosport, and so if I ever would consider the idea, if we would do it, it would be with him. I'm not gonna name his name now because he has another job. And,
gotcha.
We have had the talks, and I would definitely like to do it with him because I like the way he looks at the races and analyzes the races.
Yeah, or maybe you throw it in for some of the like Dauphiné, a recap.
Yeah. I know, but people want to know about the Tour, JB.
I know the Tour. I know it reigns king. I know there's no time for us. It's just we're going.
Do one in the morning. That would be another. In the morning, we can talk about the stage of the day before. That would be a possibility. I mean,
yeah,
it's the guys over here in Europe. He's French, so we could do that.
I'm in no way trying to obligate you to more work at this point because it's literally.
Then the next thing is going to be in German.
Yeah. I
German
know.
fans, and then the Flemish people are going to be angry because he doesn't do one in Flemish.
Oh my gosh, never ends. Hey, if you want to send us an email specifically for Johan, please do. We appreciate you guys chiming in on the show. It's JB2, so JB squared, the name that you guys gave us, at wedo.team. Okay, JB2 at wedo.team. Send your emails. All right, it's going to be fun. It was a great day today. Exciting tour. Back tomorrow climbing again, and we will talk after that tomorrow. Johan.
Okay, JB. Thanks. Speak tomorrow.